Well, folks, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains. On today's Locked On Phillies, Game 3 of the World Series has been postponed. We'll break it all down on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years. 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, NBC Sports Philadelphia on the television. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And today, well, the news just came down from Major League Baseball. This is not going to be that long of an episode because, well, we have the information that Game 3 will not be played tonight. I'm recording this at about 6:55 Eastern Standard Time here. We just got the announcement from Major League Baseball that the Phillies and Astros will not play tonight. Heavy rain throughout the night expected in Philadelphia, so no way to get the game in. There was just no window. Now, I'll tell you what. First off, before we get into the benefit for the Phillies, because there absolutely is benefit, waiting this long to delay a game when the forecast looked like this was ridiculous. Major League Baseball was stringing along 46,000 people who had tickets to a World Series game that some paid thousands upon thousands of dollars for, traveled for, all of this stuff. I understand you couldn't delay the game like yesterday, so the travel thing, there's no way to protect against it, but you could look at the radar at 4:30, 5 o'clock and know there was no window to get this game in. I think it was ridiculous that they waited this long. And if you're at the game or went to the game or were trying to get down there and are upset by this, you have every right to. It was a terrible job handling this of Major League Baseball. And on top of that, I bet the Astros feel that way as well, not playing the game tonight, because thankfully for us, this gives a huge benefit to the Philadelphia Phillies now. So the new schedule for the World Series, originally, games are supposed to be Game 3 today, Monday, Game 4 tomorrow, Tuesday, Game 5 on Wednesday, a travel day Thursday, then Game 6 would be Saturday or Friday, and Game 7 of the World Series would be Saturday. Those last couple of games, of course, if necessary. Now what it means is Game 3 will be played tomorrow, Tuesday, Game 4 Wednesday, Game 5 Thursday, competing with Houston Texans, Philadelphia Eagles in Houston, which, yeah, that's tough. Friday will be the travel day. So instead of eliminating the travel day, they will give them the travel day, just push back. And then Game 6 and 7 will move to Saturday and Sunday, respectively. So the Phillies still get their off day and travel day. If that travel day had been eliminated, it would have been a benefit to the Astros because they have a better pen. They have a deeper starting rotation. They frankly have more high-quality pitchers than what the Phillies currently have on their roster. So that would have helped them slightly, but Phillies still get their travel day to head back to Houston. And more importantly, much more importantly, tonight was supposed to be a start by Noah Syndergaard. Now, the Phillies haven't totally made that announcement yet, but now with the rest, it seems like you can go Ranger Suarez tomorrow, and then it would be Aaron Nola in Game 4, Zach Wheeler in Game 5. You now have, if you can steal a game tomorrow, not steal a game because you're at home, but if you can win Game 3 tomorrow night, then you need 2 games to win the World Series, and you will have Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, your best pitchers, throwing at home. Instead of having a bullpen game tonight, Ranger Suarez tomorrow night, and then Aaron Nola, and then you got to hope you get back to Houston, or even if you get back to Houston up games, well, Zach Wheeler's got to throw on the road. Now you have your top 2 pitchers going with the benefit of being at home. You get the extra rest. Ranger Suarez can go on regular rest. You don't have to throw the bullpen game that you're going to have to throw today. Now, Rob Thompson hasn't announced who's going to start because, of course, we just got the announcement of what's going on with the game being postponed tonight. But you have to assume it's going to be Ranger Suarez tomorrow, and that's a better matchup. I don't know what the Astros are going to do with Lance McCullers. I don't know if he still throws. I don't know what the routine was like for him today, assuming whether or not the game was going to be played. I have to imagine they had an idea, basically when we all did at about 5 o'clock, that this game wasn't going to be played. So I'd imagine he's going to be still ready to go. But, hey, that throws a monkey wrench in Houston's rotation. It helps the Phillies out. The Phillies have basically 3 good pitchers right now that they're comfortable with starting. And it just so happens that the weather sets it up now that those 3 pitchers can throw exclusively, and you don't have to do a bullpen game in between it. So a huge, huge benefit for the Philadelphia Phillies with this rain. And I believe I was seeing some tweets. I wasn't around for all of it, but I was seeing some tweets that every game 3 of the World Series has had rain issues, in some capacity. And the Phillies always seem to have weather issues in the World Series. This is the rainy season in Philadelphia when you get to late October. So hard to avoid. Also, to everyone saying build a roof, doesn't really help us right now. So keep that to yourself. I disagree with that anyway. I think baseball should be played outside, but whatever. That's a different conversation. It won't help today. Won't help this World Series. Won't help any of these soon coming years. Bottom line is, Game 3 of the World Series postponed till tomorrow night. The schedule stays as scheduled sequentially, meaning that they still have the travel day in between games 5 and 6, which is a benefit to the Phillies. And this pushes the rotation into a better spot for Philadelphia. Gets everybody rest, gets you all set up. The Astros have to spend another day not in their own beds. The Phillies get to stay an extra day in their own beds with their family back at home, probably heading home from the ballpark right now. Might even get some Halloween celebrating in. Who knows? It's a big-time benefit for the home team. It's a big-time benefit for the team with the less depth when it comes to pitching. And in this case, both of those go towards the Philadelphia Phillies way. So if you're the Astros, this makes your road a little bit tougher. If you're the Phillies, it makes it a little bit easier. If you were supposed to go to the game, it makes you a lot more annoyed. But you can't help the weather. You can't help the rain. And fortunately or unfortunately, from whatever your perspective is, Game 3 will now be played tomorrow. Now, coming up in the next segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about how this benefits the Phillies specifically for tomorrow's game. We're not going to do a full preview of tomorrow's game. Going to look into it a little bit, but of course, this changes everything as far as projected starters, projected lineup. If McCullers doesn't throw, do they still go with a lefty-heavy lineup with Marsh in center field and Stott at shortstop? I don't know. This changes everything, and this is something that I'm sure the Phillies and Astros were somewhat prepared for, but not totally letting those plans be known because you don't want to give that away whether it's delayed or not. But I will discuss coming up next about my thoughts, the rest of the series, and learning from things that happened in games 1 and 2 out in Houston. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Phillies. Oh, but first, let me tell you about my friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your number one continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every single sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf, all that good stuff. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Let me also tell you about my friends over at Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today has been doing a lot covering the biggest news every day in sports and keeping you up to date, up to the minute on all of the big stories happening. So, of course, the big story recently has been the World Series and everything. So you've been seeing a lot of this smiling face on there, along with our counterparts over on Locked On Astros. But check out Locked On Sports Today. They're available wherever you get your podcasts. I don't know why I said that weird. Podcasts. So like I was like British or something. Podcast, YouTube, Odyssey app, all those good places where you find Locked On Phillies. You can find Locked On Sports Today. So check them out. Now, let's talk about what the Phillies need to improve upon from games 1 and 2. Well, more so game 2 because they won game 1 and how they carry that over the momentum for splitting in Houston to benefiting themselves at home. Now, the biggest thing is going to be the crowd. And I find it laughable. I've seen so many tweets because now my Twitter algorithm is feeding me because I've tweeted so much about the Astros, Phillies, the World Series. My algorithm is now tweeting me or sending me a bunch of Astros stuff. So I'm seeing the tweets, folks down there in Houston, if you're watching this, about, oh, we're supposed to be afraid of the Phillies fan base. We're supposed to be worried about how loud it's going to be. We've played in tough environments before. We had to deal with all the backlash from the cheating scandal in the World Series and everything like that. This is nothing these players haven't experienced before. I'll warn you one more time. Yes, it is. This is nothing like these Astro players have ever experienced before. Playoff baseball in Philadelphia in October, and actually tomorrow it'll be November. Playoff baseball is a different beast from anything else they played in. They say, oh yeah, New York was tough. You're going to New York with that team down 2-0 and already feeling like they saw no fight out of their players. That was also a team that had a bit of a collapse in the middle of the season, that looked like their expectations were to be the best team in the history of baseball. And there were seemed to be a little bit of issues already glaring with that team by the time they made it into the postseason. Now, they won the AL East. They felt comfortable with that. But that Yankees team does not have what the Phillies have right now, which is a miraculous run that has taken this city by storm. On top of that, you've got an undefeated football team in the Philadelphia Eagles. You have a soccer team in the Union that just punched their ticket to the MLS Cup final. This city is on fire right now. It's the toughest place to play on the planet. I don't care who you are, what you've been through, what level you play at. If you're coming to Philadelphia to play a Philadelphia professional sports team right now, it is a bad place to be, with the exception of maybe the Sixers, who have not been great. But this is not Locked On Sixers, Flyers, Union, or Eagles. This is Locked On Phillies. And the Astros fan base, they don't have any idea what they're in for or what they're about to see. Not aimed towards their fan base, because everyone should be, I'm not going to say respectful, because I know that's unrealistic. Shouldn't be any violence. There shouldn't be any crossing of any lines. You don't need no fights or anything like that. That's all stupid stuff. But I'm talking about the fan base doesn't know what the Astros are in for. This home field advantage is legitimate, and it's the best one in Major League Baseball. It might be the best one in all sports right now. They're not prepared for it. The fan base is, at least, and I don't know that the players are either on that side. So that's a big-time benefit. But what you can actually learn from on the field, looking at it, the first thing is you got to figure out the adjustment to the breaking ball. I thought the Phillies did an all right job, I guess, in game 2, seeing Framber Valdez, who throws a significant amount of those breakers. We saw it over and over and over again in his performance in game 2. Well, you're going to see that again from Lance McCullers if he throws it, or if he throws in general on Wednesday. He will throw it. He's going to throw his breaking ball, his patented breaking ball, nearly 50% of the time. He throws that often. So make sure that you have the approach in your mind. Now, he throws it from the right side as opposed to the lefty Valdez. The Phillies hit right-handed pitching a little bit better, so a benefit there. But the approach that they had in game 2, it needs to be refined a little bit. Whether it's eliminating that pitch if they don't feel that they can handle it and just hunting fastballs, whether it's working backwards and eliminating the fastball and simply trying to hunt those breakers and have guys like Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper and Rhys Hoskins try and hit it a million feet. I don't know what the right strategy is for their players. I'm not Kevin Long. I'm not getting paid to be a major league hitting coach. What I'll tell you is they need to be better against a breaking ball dominant pitcher than what they were in game 2. Here's the other thing they need to be better at that they were bad at in the first 2 games. The starting pitching needs to step up. And that's why it's huge that you can have Ranger Suarez go rather than Noah Syndergaard. Now, I don't think Noah Syndergaard was going to let the moment be too big for him, but I trust Ranger Suarez's stuff significantly more than I trust Noah Syndergaard's. So you can't have a situation like what happened to Aaron Nola in game 1, an early blowout. You can't have a situation like what happened against Zach Wheeler in game 2, where you fall behind early again. And unfortunately, that time the team couldn't pull out of that hole, couldn't dig out of that hole, rather. It's just it was not a good situation from either starting pitcher, not a great performance from Wheeler, not a great performance from Nola in games 1 and 2. The starting pitching has to be better. Bullpen was really good. After you surrender those early leads, the bullpen kind of locked it down, and the fight in game 1 was incredible. That needs to be the mentality. And I think they had that mentality again in game 2. It's just there's only so many games where you can come back from down 3, 4, 5 runs against a team like the Houston Astros. It was surprising they did it in game 1. It was hard to expect them to replicate that in game 2. So, hey, maybe get out to an early lead. And the other thing that I think they really, really need to be good at when it comes to game 3 and 4 and 5 for the rest of this series I think they need to be a little bit more aggressive at the plate. It feels like, and this goes back to the approach of hitting the breaking ball, but this is something that you saw against Verlander as well, who worked high fastball a lot. There were a good amount of pitches in game one and game two, early in at bats, where it felt like they were seeing the best pitches at the at bat and just watching them go by. And this is a lineup thing. This is not any exclusive player. In game one, they made the adjustment better than they did in game two, but I think aggressiveness is going to be really key for facing these top tier arms that the Astros have. Even if you get deeper into the rotation in the next couple games, still, I feel like that was a bit of a detriment to the Phillies' approach. But they accomplished their goal, right? They went to Houston. They came back 1-1. And they're in a good spot. They have home field advantage in the series. There are 3 games in Philadelphia. There are 2 games in Houston. The Phillies are a really, really good home team, undefeated in the playoffs at home. We know the home field advantage. A little bit of an added spice to it as well. Well, the Phillies fan base now thinks the Astros were cheating in game 2 and game 1. Now, in game 1, I'm going to level with you because I'm a fan, and my initial response was, yeah, those Astros, they cheat, and this, that, and the other thing. Then you take a deep breath and you think about it, and you go, okay, Martin Maldonado, he used an illegal bat in game 1. But it wasn't like it was corked or anything like that. It was literally like Albert Pujols used that same model of bat against the Philadelphia Phillies in the NL Wildcard Series. It was just one that had been grandfathered in. If it was that big of an advantage, they would have stopped Albert Pujols or anyone who played with it prior to 2010, which was the cutoff for that bat, from using it. They didn't, so it's clearly a slight advantage, but not anything crazy. I do believe that was just a mistaken move by Maldonado. I don't think he was trying to game the system. And if he was, I don't think it's a significant enough advantage to be like, oh, throw him out. Well, this, that, and the other. Not that big of a deal when you're looking at it objectively. The Framber Valdez thing. Do I think he had some substance on his hand or his hat or whatever that he kept going to? I don't know for sure. It sure looked like it to me, though. Here's the thing. Every team in the MLB cheats. Every team in Major League Baseball finds ways for competitive advantages like that are not technically inside the rules. It'd be hard for you to convince me that there wasn't a pitcher on every single one of the 30 Major League Baseball teams this year using some type of substance for an advantage. We know what spider tack used to be in Major League Baseball. We've seen what some of the pitchers have said, thinking specifically of like Garrett Cole, maybe the forefront of that commentary once they outlawed spider tack, like, oh, I don't have any feel for the baseball anymore. And clearly, there were a lot of guys using it. I'd be surprised if there wasn't at least a guy on each of the Major League Baseball teams still trying to find a way to get that feel back from some of the substances you can no longer use inside the rules. Is it right? No. Do I think it's something that's inherent only to the Astros? Also no. But here's all that matters. And you're listening to this right now. I want you to you ever been in jury duty? Because I told you I had jury duty earlier. Was that? No, that was last week, Monday and Tuesday of last week. So missed some work at the radio station. You know when they tell you to strike something from the record and you're expected to just act like you didn't just hear like the last 5 minutes of the conversation? I want you to do that right now. I want this fan base to treat the Astros like they were absolutely cheating in games 1 and 2. I want them to be riled up, and there are going to be plenty of people who fully believe that. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm naive to think that they're not doing anything that gains that significant of a competitive advantage. But the fact that those videos surfaced and everything, it adds more vitriol. It adds more juice to the crowd that we're going to see in games 3, 4, and 5. Now, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Philadelphia. And if you think the crowd was already going to be fired up, just adds a little bit more ampage, a little bit more electricity to the environment at Citizens Bank Park with those videos and the thought process of, man, are they trying to cheat us again? And there are already billboards up in the city making fun of the Astros about it. Yeah, all of this benefits of the Philadelphia Phillies. They're in a really good spot right now. They got to take care of business. Like, you'd love to be up 2-0, but the Phillies are where they want to be, and they got a break from the weather tonight. So a huge benefit from Mother Nature, and a couple of those benefits that they've given themselves or can take by using those different approaches that I was talking about. Now, coming up next, I want to talk through a little bit of the protocol for a good Philadelphia fan on Thursday night, because I know what's going on with the Eagles. I know the World Series now overtakes, and this is going to be your blueprint for the rest of the series as a fan? We'll discuss that next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Okay, so here's the deal, right? Nothing really changes unless you were going to the game. And if you were, again, my apologies for the poor luck. My apologies for the way that MLB handled it. I feel your pain. I was frustrated with the way that they handled it as well. Obviously not in charge of the decision, but spending that much money on tickets and all of the plans for travel and everything like that, it's a really tough situation. So I feel for anyone out there that was affected, that had their plans affected by tonight's rain out. That does suck. Now, nothing we can do. Games move to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My days are all off this week with the World Series and the short week and everything. Tuesday and Wednesday, no brainer. Zone in on the Phillies. There's nothing else going on you need to focus on. Here's my thing with Thursday night, right? The Eagles are playing the Texans in Houston. It's an away game, so you're not going down to the ballpark. There will not be 70,000 folks in Lincoln Financial Field screaming their head off about the Philadelphia Eagles, which I love when the Eagles play home games. But this instance, better that it's an away game. The Phillies play. A lot of people, that's going to be another 46,000 sellout. So a lot of benefit there for the Phillies. We already talked about the home field advantage. And if you're not at the ballpark, here's my little locked on Eagles cut in. The Eagles are 13-point favorites against the Houston Texans. The Texans stink. The Eagles are undefeated. Even if they lose, they're still first place in the NFC East. The Eagles game doesn't really matter. It's crazy to say that if you're a Philadelphia sports fan. I won't say it on the radio. But in this medium, as the host of Locked On Phillies, this Thursday night Eagles game doesn't matter. Maybe throw it on the laptop, but I'd have the Phillies game on the TV. I wouldn't even be watching the Eagles. Maybe just like keep them on the phone or something. I've already got off from Eagles post game on Thursday night because I'm like, I need to be zoned in on the Phillies World Series game. Already made those arrangements. You should too. World Series infinitely more important than a Week 9 Thursday night matchup. The Eagles will take care of business. I promise. Zone in on the Phillies. Go to the game. Buy the tickets. Find a way if you couldn't make it to game 3. Well, maybe now you can make it Thursday night. Maybe this opens up the schedule for some of you. So there could be some people sitting at home. They're like, well, the only game I would have been able to get to was Thursday. And it's a shame that that's the travel day. Hey, now that opportunity is open. So make sure you're zoned in on the Phillies still. This is the most important ongoings. And it sets everything up for a good weekend. You also now get Saturday, Sunday night games. Friday, Saturday would be more ideal for me, but the fact that they're both on a weekend, you got plenty of time to prepare for those games and everything. You hope it doesn't go to Sunday because that would mean Game 7 in Houston, and that would be a tall task. Ideally, Thursday, it would be really awesome if they celebrated a World Series championship, huh? That'd be pretty cool. It's very possible. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the pass there. You got Ranger. You got Nola. Now you got Wheeler potentially in a clinching game. Hey, let's dance. A lot of things went the Phillies' way. And as a fan, I know it's not the easiest thing to have the conflicts in schedule now, but it's Phillies first. It's Phillies always until this World Series run is over. That's my blueprint for the rest of the way. And prepare yourself for the weekend because it very well could be a busy one now Saturday and Sunday, even though the Eagles don't play with these games being pushed back. So, again, Phillies rain out of Game 3 of the World Series. Houston Astros, Philadelphia Phillies will be played at Citizens Bank Park tomorrow night, 8:03 p.m. That will be the makeup game for Game 3. Everything pushed back a day. The travel day still exists. That'll just be Friday instead of Thursday. And then Saturday and Sunday, if necessary, will conclude the series. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. We'll talk a little bit more about Game 3 tomorrow, and I'm going to have a crossover with Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan of Locked On MLB. I want to thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And make your second listen. Again, I'll tell you again, Locked On Sports Today. It's great. It's going to see me. You're going to see our folks over at Locked On Astros who are not worried about the crowd. So maybe tweet them a thing or two and remind them how tough this Philly crowd is. But go ahead and check out Locked On Sports Today. Available wherever you get your podcasts, Odyssey, YouTube, all that good stuff. That's all, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.